Alright, it's rolling? Alright. What's going on, Fader Culture? I'm Adrian Barone, and we're back with another barber tutorial. Today, we're gonna be breaking down the steps on how to do an 8 on top with the mid fade using today's video sponsor, CC, a very, very affordable brand that we highly recommend. I will leave them linked down in the description along with a 10% discount code, so feel free to check it out. Before we get into this tutorial, I did want to quickly shout out, we just restocked on the shadow tees. They do have the print in the front, print in the back. The link is in the description down below for that as well, fadedculture.co. With that said, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's jump right into it. That was better, finally. Oh, yeah, leave that one. I'm already tired. All right, guys, as y'all can see, take 6. I was already a little tired, but thank y'all for tuning in to another tutorial. As usual, all my steps will be in the description down below in case y'all want to screenshot them and follow along that way. But with that said, let me tell y'all a little bit about today's video sponsor. They do go by the name of CC. They got some pretty cool products. All their clippers have the LED screen to show the battery percentage. They do also have shears in their product line. These products are very, very affordable, so feel free to check them out with the link down in the description. Now we're gonna start this tutorial by fluffing out his hair using the wide side of the comb. As you can see, it's more so just picking it out as his hair is very coarse. And we're gonna use a number 8 guard with a lever completely closed and run that throughout the top. Make sure that you are cutting against the grain at all times. And I always like to run the top guard 2 to 3 times. So here I already ran it once. I'm recombing the hair. Then I'm gonna go ahead and run it a second time just to make sure that the top is as even as possible. Now with my number 2 guard lever completely open, I'm gonna go ahead and start debulking to clean out the canvas. Locate the hairline, and we're gonna take this number 2 up to the parietal ridge. And as you can see, I am flicking out as I reach the top of that motion just to make sure that I'm not digging a hard line in. And I think it's always essential that you debulk the sides, that way you can see your guidelines when you come back in. And always keep a small brush or comb in your opposite hand to then clean out the surface after every couple strokes. Now with no guard lever completely closed, we're gonna come in and set our first guideline starting right at that temple peak area, and we're gonna drop it as we approach the back of the ear. Just make sure that you are soft with your guidelines. And yes, my clippers are 0 gapped, which I highly recommend that you try as well. I will leave a link down in the description to a video where we show you how we 0 gap our clippers. Make sure that your guideline ends up at that same temple peak area on the opposite side. You could always view him from the front as well to make sure they align. Now with the lever completely open, still no guard, we're gonna come in and set our second guideline, taking that up about an inch or so, and just make sure that it runs parallel to the one underneath. That way your fade is even throughout. Now with my number 1 guard lever still completely open, we're gonna come in and set in our third guideline. And all these guards did come with this clipper. So again, the link is in the description down below alongside with the 10% discount code. Now with my number 2 guard lever still in that completely open position, we're gonna continue the process. And with the number 2 guard and above, I do not focus on creating a guideline, more so just creating space, if that makes sense. And as you can see, I'm still exaggerating that flick out motion at the top. But as you can see right now, when I come in with my number 3, since I was so easy with this number 2, there's not gonna be a line in between these 2 guards. Now with the number 3 guard lever still completely open, we're going to continue that process of cleaning out the surface. And like I mentioned, since I was very easy on the wrist with that number 2 guard, you can't really see a line from that 2 to the 3. It kind of just blends right into it. And this is the last guard that I will be using. After this, we're going to do clipper over comb, starting with the lever completely open using no guard. But if you are new to clipper over comb, I highly suggest that you slap on that number 1 and maybe even open the lever. And what that's going to do is just going to be used as a safety net so you don't cut more than you need to. Even to this day, I still start with the lever completely open. This is just to help blend in that side to the top. And here I'm gonna freehand all the frizz. As you can see, I'm using my pinky as support. Always step back and clean out that frizz, guys. Sometimes when you're exaggerating that flick out motion, you're still gonna have a few hairs that stick out. By now, you should have the first guideline that we created with the lever closed, the second that we created with the lever completely open, and the third that we created with the 1 guard lever completely open. As you can see, everything else just blended right into the top. We're stuck with just 3 guidelines. Now with my 1.5 guard, we're going to close the lever just slightly, putting it into a 3/4 position. It's basically in between halfway and fully open. We're going to start with that top guideline, and now we're going to work our way down, using mainly the corners of the clipper to attack these guidelines. And this 3/4 position, guys, is just a rule of thumb. Sometimes you're gonna need to open it slightly, and sometimes you're gonna need to close it. It's just gonna depend from client to client, but I always use it as a rule of thumb. I start there and adjust as I need to. Now for that second guideline coming down, we're gonna use the 1/2 guard. Putting that in that 3/4 position, we're gonna leave the lever still there. So if you did notice, when I initially clean up the canvas, my lever stays fully open. And now that we're working our way back down, it's gonna stay in that 3/4 position. But this step is creating a faint line right above it. But do not take this guard any higher, as we will come back right now with that 1 guard and clean it out. Just take your time, guys, and be easy with all of this. Now for that faint line that the 1/2 guard created, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to use a number 1 guard, and we're still going to leave that lever in that 3/4 position. And again, just using mainly the corners of the clipper to attack that faint line. And now for that last line that we initially created with the 0, it's going to take a 3-step process, starting with the lever closed, then we're going to open it halfway, and then we're going to open it completely. Using that 3-step process, we're going to focus on just one side of the head. We're going to stay on this left side of his head, because this last step is very tedious, so we're going to take our time and take each of these notches up just slightly. Again, my lever is completely closed right now. And second, we're going to open it halfway. And finally, we're going to open it completely. And as you could see, I'm literally only using that last 2 to 3 teeth of the clipper to finish the blend. Now that we're all done with this side, now I'm just gonna focus on the back side of his head. Again, I think it's important that you break down this last line into these 3 sides, just because again, it's very, very tedious. It's easy to get frustrated. So I found that by breaking it down into 3 sides, I can focus and just take my time with it. Again, focus on using the corners of the clipper to get into those tight areas and break those dark spots apart. And finally, the right side of his head. Again, just repeat that same 3-step process, starting with the lever close, and second, open it halfway, and finally all the way open. And once you're done with that 3-step process, I always like to use my half guard, and I'm just gonna write lever play on this one because this is gonna vary from just even one side of the head to the other, from client to client. This is just gonna take time to develop an eye to clean out those dark areas and really bring the fade in that much better. So I highly suggest that you always step back and look at the haircut as a whole, or even look into the mirror so you can get a different perspective on the haircut. And here, just cleaning out the bottom. For this particular haircut, we are not gonna shave it, but since my clippers are 0 gap, they're basically like a Sub-Zero with that lever completely closed. And here I'm just gonna shave out the sideburn area alongside with the neckline. Just to taper that in. And finish using your trimmer just to kind of blend that in. And for his edge up, as usual, we start in the middle and we work our way to each side. Now these trimmers, you can't 0 gap them, so I wanted to give you a heads up on that, but you could 0 gap the actual clipper that I was using. But these did just fine for this haircut. And I always suggest that you ask their client what they want to do with their facial hair, eyebrows, and then clean out any nose or ear hair that they might have. Here I'm applying a little bit of shave gel and then reapplying a little bit of water. And what this is going to do is just going to preserve the life of the shave gel. And we just dropped our faded culture Turkish style razor blades last week, guys. Thank y'all for those who have been purchasing them. I found that using a matte black razor blade really helps with the contrast from the razor to the actual blade itself. As usual, I start by shaving with the grain and follow that by shaving against the grain. Make sure that you are using your opposite hand to help stretch out that skin to ensure a smoother shave. And since we did do a 0 on the sides, I always like to come in and define that neckline. Here I'm just using a little bit of semi-permanent hair enhancement. And I do dilute mine about 50% water and 50% dye. Here I'm emulsifying some matte pomade, and then I'm gonna run it in a circular motion to really enhance the waves and curls that he has. Running the last of the product on the mustache. And here's the before in case y'all forgot. And here's the after, a number 8 on top with a mid fade. I did taper out the sideburn area and the neckline, I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial, guys. I hope y'all took something new from it. As always, let us know down in the comments below what y'all would like for us to do next. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, guys. Till next time, peace.